I've got a real interesting subject matter I'd like to talk to you guys about. Also, while reviewing the sparring beatdown of Sean Strickland against Sneako. So, I'm going to tell you guys why this particular subject is really important to talk about. And one of the main reasons is because people nowadays have a real huge misunderstanding into really not understanding the difference between legacy media and content creators on YouTube. Now, there's a huge difference in the culture, and not only that, in the time eras. You see, back in the days, when you would listen to somebody like Walter Cronkite or Barbara Walters or all these other media legacy heads that were basically the staple of your everyday news consumption, in all honesty, it doesn't compete in the oversaturation of media consumption of today. And that also pertains as well in the MMA media space. You see, in the current times, I'm just going to tell you flat out, Sean Strickland thinks that social media influencers are utterly useless. And the reason why he believes this, I think, is because he has a certain perception about YouTubers and content creators and people that are sometimes within that younger age demographics that, let's just be honest about it, has a real one up in understanding technology and understanding their advantages in computers, in, let's say, content creation through your phones, and into different web designs that you can do. All of these things, right? The older generation has no understanding of these things in a way that, let's say, the younger generation does. So in comes the Nelk boys. And why is that important? You got to look at the contentious relationship the UFC has had when it came to, let's say, Ariel Hawani, or when it came to, for the older heads, they're going to know this straight away. How about Loretta Hunt? Do you guys remember back in the days, Loretta Hunt got into it with Dana White, and, well, how about Ariel Hawani? He's considered legacy media in a way. He's worked for ESPN. The guy works for BT Sports, now known as TNT Sports, out in England. He's worked with MMA Fighting, which obviously is more of a niche MMA company, but nonetheless, really an MMA company that is underground in ways that, let's say, you're not when you're in, let's say, CBS, or what's the other one? Um, NBC. What else? What else is the other one? Um, CNN, obviously, for the conventional news outlets. But this is what the UFC has gone in the direction of in terms of social media influence. And you ever notice the Nelk boys now have a spot with fighters on Fight Week? You're going to notice it. You're going to see it. Every Fight Week, they have, let's say, the main event fighter, and they're interviewing them on their show. They talk about, hey, what's it like to get hit? All these generalized, casual fan questions that you would get. But nonetheless, a few things that you got to understand about legacy media as opposed to content creation and the social media space of that aspect is that when you look at the Nelk boys as opposed to, let's say, legacy media, CNN, name a mainstream MMA company. How about, let's say, maybe CBS? I know Brian Campbell covers MMA, but mostly in the boxing side. But nonetheless, they are mainstream media. They don't get the kind of views that the Nelk boys have. So if you are the UFC, to really hammer down this point, who would you go with to promote your marketing schemes? Are you going to go with legacy media that's not really getting a lot of attention? Or are you going to go with the Nelk Boys or Sneako? Or let's say maybe even Andrew Tate. I know they've used him a couple of times when they went out to Abu Dhabi. You've noticed some videos where Andrew Tate was with Aljamain Sterling. He was with Leon Edwards. So this is what the UFC tries to do. They try to create a social media influence in order to garner attention in their younger fan base. Because guess what? If you are a guy that is within your mid 30s, somebody like my age, even at 38, and you've been a long time fan of the UFC, guess what? They already got you. You know that you're going to come to the fights. You know that you're going to come buy the pay per views. You know that you're going to set a certain Saturday aside, especially for big pay per views like this upcoming UFC card in Anaheim. But either way, they got you. What they want now are the newer guys, which are the younger guys, and the young boys can attract that. Sneako can attract that. So what do I know about Sneako? To sort of give you guys a backstory into this whole entire situation, right? He was considered the wannabe Latino Andrew Tate. I believe he is Puerto Rican American from the Bronx or from New York, the East Coast in general, and he's been around Andrew Tate. He's now a converted Muslim. So Sneako is a well-known Islam convert that is a social media influencer. And then here he is getting in there with somebody like Sean Strickland in a cage. But they were fighting, obviously, in boxing rules. Now, why did, let's say, Sean Strickland, why was he so angry about this? For the simple fact that Sean Strickland just does not understand how clout goes. I don't think he understands what makes him popular, even though he's just naturally being himself. But what he doesn't understand is that with that process comes the process of people, um, wanting something authentic, something real, something that is a lot like them. When you look at somebody like the Nelk Boys, they really are the quintessential broheads of, let's say, of fraternity college age males. That's who these guys are. And Sean Strickland hates that. Not only does he hate that, he despises it in a very misguided way, to be quite honest with you. Because yes, Sneako is part of that category of people that do YouTube pranks. You know, those people that go to, let's say, random places and make jokes out of people or provoke people into things just to create content or this and that. Sneako, I think at one point he was sort of something like this, as sort of a shock jock content creator. But then obviously he got into the whole red pill space with guys like Andrew Tate. And then with that came into converting to Islam. So now he's adopting all these different conservative views. But aside from all that, with the sparring review that I could tell you about Sneako, before going into the technical aspects of it, the kid is no punk. He really isn't. By the way, you should enjoy this view behind me right here with the lake. Yeah, he really is no punk. And while you guys are checking this out, I'm going to tell you guys a little review of what I noticed. So, Sneako obviously is not a lifelong athlete. I don't know what his background is. I don't know what he did. But obviously, it's not the kind of background where he may have wrestled or grappled anyone or maybe even threw punches, let alone really be fitting enough to play any particular sport or tall enough to, let's say, play basketball or big enough to, let's say, get in the football field. Now, his speed, his strength, and this and that, we don't know much of it, but from what we know is obviously he's not a lifelong athlete. So with that, you got to understand that he's not going to have anything dangerous to offer Sean Strickland in a Queensberry boxing rules. But what he did show was two things. Number one, he showed that he can learn easily with understanding the basics. In the basics that he was able to apply against Sean Strickland, the jabs, the footwork. However, he did get cornered a few times. I would have liked him to, let's say, move his feet around a whole lot more. But obviously, he couldn't do that because of what I had just mentioned earlier, just now, which is what? He is not a lifelong athlete, and as a consequence, he's not going to be able to throw any hard shots, throw any explosive shots, or use any type of athletic footwork to move himself out of the way in which he got cornered at the end. Now, with Sean Strickland, he is obviously a lifelong fighter, a long-time athlete, and not only that, just an overall tough guy that can take a lot of hits in ways that Sneako just can't. So that's why he walked him down confidently the way that he did. And by the way, not really that far fetched from what he does with other high level guys such as Adesanya or Dricus, right? He's very relaxed, but even more so with Sneako because, quite frankly, Sneako just did not have that particular strength advantage or athletic advantage or any of those things that could, let's say, hinder the prowess of Sean Strickland's experience, and not only his experience, but his overall strength factor and size factor that he has over Sneako. So that right there is the review that I have for this matter at hand with Sneako's sparring with Sean Strickland. So a little recap on what we are talking about here, right? So Sean Strickland doesn't like social media influencers because he thinks low of them and he generalizes them in a certain category that, well, may have misplaced certain people like Sneako. Now, why is that? For one, Sneako, I gotta tell you, he's wholesome. He's base, as what a lot of the people in the red pill community like to say online. He really is, right? But Sean Strickland got this all wrong. Now, maybe in the end of it, he may have respected him. And I think that's ultimately the message that Sean Strickland is trying to show to the world, which is stand up for yourself, be strong, be a man, take accountability. But in all those things that I had just mentioned, yes, this is all true, but it doesn't go without saying that, man, Sean Strickland is a real damaged individual. And why is that important? As you guys take a look at a close eye view of the Sacramento American River once again, I'm going to tell you why is that important to make you guys understand that Sean Strickland is an extremely damaged individual. Well, for one, I think there is this aspect that a lot of people love to believe that the more trauma that you take, that somehow it makes you stronger. And I think that we really have to tackle that notion into understanding that sometimes not all trauma is good for everybody. Yes, it may have strengthened certain people and it may have made certain people a lot stronger. And it may have given better results or garnered a desired result for certain individuals, but we shouldn't use that as some sort of pinpoint keynote to create a false blueprint on how one should live. Because within those trauma and damages that you go through in life, it is going to make you really a much less pleasant person. And with that comes social issues. With that comes issues in your family life, in your work life, and also how you function in normal everyday society with the people around you. So those things should be accounted for. The problem is when you see somebody like Sean Strickland, all that you see is success. Not only success, a great underdog story as a result of that success. And all with that, we just look at his trauma that he's gone through in his life and we dismiss it into something that is just, well, you know what, it made him stronger. But did it really? Because here's the thing, yes, as a fighter and as somebody that is a warrior or somebody that is within that warrior class, you may need that. The problem is you only fight in a cage for 25 minutes maximum. After that, you have to live the rest of your life 24/7, 365 with people around you and the society around you. And now all those extra baggages that you've had, you just can't bring that around you, because otherwise all you're going to do is further damage everything that is beautiful in your life. But once again, isn't that the price of fame? Isn't that the price of glory? But honestly, that's a lot of people don't ask these types of questions. They don't, especially Sean Strickland fans. Let's get that really straight down the line and understand it for what it is. Sean Strickland fans only see the good in him, and rightfully so. I'm going to tell you guys, obviously, my all-time favorite, Khabib Nurmagomedov, a man who basically is almost a man without sin, or is he? So here's a little controversy about Khabib that many people, especially fans of his and big supporters of his, don't like to talk about. Do you guys remember that video that they had of Khabib out here in Northern California making a man do push-ups? Do you guys remember that? Why is that significant? So that looked so bad. It looked so horrible. But the problem is there misrepresentation in that? Because let's take a look at this in two different aspects, right? For one, it could have been a situation where this man just wanted to prove himself in front of Khabib. Because I know I've been in sparring rooms, I've been in grappling rooms where Uriah Faber was there watching, and he was one of my favorite fighters of all time, and I just wanted to look great in front of him. Just like what you would do with any coaches that you respect. There were a lot of coaches over the years that I respected that I wanted to look good for in front of them, and this and that. It's important to understand that. You want to look good in front of the person that you admire. So could it be just that? Could it be that this homeless man was just trying to perform in front of Khabib? Or is it that Khabib really just has issues with, let's say, maybe, I don't know, being merciful because he's such a strong person? And that's something you got to understand. The stronger that you are, the richer that you are, the more you're going to have less empathy for the weak. And again, Sean Strickland likes to dismiss trauma as some sort of how do I say this? Like a band-aid treatment in a way, right? Where he just, I don't know, man. You know, here's the thing, right? As successful as Sean Strickland is right now, in all honesty, I would not want his life. Okay, now is he a great fighter? Is he a great personality? Yes. This is what it is. There's many great fighters out there. There's many people out there that are living better lives. There's many people out there that have better relationships with the people around there, or maybe he does. Maybe this is just a way for him to act like the way that he does because he just wants to cope with it in the way that he knows how. But either way, I think that to really hammer this home and to bring it home here, here's something I want you to understand, okay, about Sean Strickland. He got this all wrong with Sneako before he even understood what Sneako was willing to do when he got in there with him. Because let's really give credit to where credit is due about Sneako's particular performance in here, right? For a guy who's never really took martial arts, never really fought, never really did any type of workouts, or I don't know what he did growing up when he was a kid. He just doesn't look like the most athletic guy, right? But he went in there, showed that he could get down with the basics, and not only that, take some shots along the way and bleed for it. Ultimately, I think that's really all that we can respect for anybody. And when it comes to the new marketing of the UFC, you guys have to understand these social media influencers, I'm sorry to tell you, They got them beat. That's just the way that it is, whether you like it or not. Social media, new content creators, those are the people that are here to stay today. And if you don't understand that or you don't want to get with the times are going to push you aside. So don't be that guy that doesn't evolve throughout the times. But also don't be that guy that misjudges or misrepresents people when you really never got the chance to get to know them. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you can get to know more of my content, whether I'm doing live stream or the videos that I do. Look out for the next coming video that I'm going to have with the preview to UFC 298 and among all the other content that we're going to drop for you guys, inshallah.